Fear is one of the oldest stories the human mind has ever told itself. It is a shadow cast by the unknown, a veil woven from illusions and expectations about what might happen, yet seldom does. Imagine if you can see fear not as a wall blocking your path, but as a mirror reflecting your deepest uncertainties and untapped strength. For over 2 millennia, Buddhist philosophy has held a radical truth. What we call fear is largely a construct of the mind, an echo of our attachment to permanence in a world defined by impermanence. This wisdom invites us to step beyond fear's illusions and meet life with clear eyes and an open heart. Today, we embark on a journey into 12 transformative Buddhist teachings that reveal fear's true nature, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. These lessons will guide you to dissolve the walls built by worry, to embrace uncertainty with courage, and to awaken a fearless presence within yourself. If you are ready to see fear not as your master, but as a doorway to freedom, join me. Let us uncover the timeless insights that can rewrite your relationship with fear, and in doing so, illuminate the path to your true potential. The illusion of fear, seeing through the shadow. Fear is not a fixed enemy standing before us. It is a delicate fabric woven by our own mind, an illusion shaped by countless thoughts, memories, and projections. The Buddha revealed that much of our suffering arises not from the external world, but from the stories our minds create about that world. Fear is often one of these stories, a narrative built upon what-ifs, maybes, and worsts. Consider this. Our mind is like a master storyteller, vividly painting scenes of danger, failure, or loss, often exaggerating or distorting reality. When you stand at the edge of a cliff, your heart pounds and your palms sweat, not because you are falling, but because your mind conjures an imagined fall, a future catastrophe that has not yet happened and may never happen at all. This profound understanding invites us to step back and watch fear for what it truly is, not an absolute truth, but a transient mental formation. Fear is like a shadow cast by our imagination. It grows larger when we turn away, but shrinks when we face it with clear awareness. The moment we see fear as a passing visitor rather than an eternal captor, its power begins to wane. Philosophically, this reflects the Buddhist teaching on Maya, the illusory nature of perceptions. Our fears, just like our desires and attachments, arise from illusions that veil the deeper reality of impermanence and interconnectedness. When we cling to fear as a solid fact, we imprison ourselves in a cage of our own making. But by cultivating mindful awareness, we pierce through the veil, recognizing fear's impermanence and non-substantial nature. Practically, this means that the courage to move forward doesn't come from the absence of fear, but from the clarity to see it as it is. It comes from embodying the witness, the silent observer within you who watches fear rise and fall like clouds drifting across a vast sky. This witness is your true self, untouched by transient emotions. The next time fear arises, instead of fleeing or fighting, pause. Breathe deeply. Ask yourself, is this fear real, or is it a story my mind is telling? In this pause lies freedom, the freedom to choose your response, to reclaim your presence, and to act with wisdom beyond the shadow. Fear will visit again, as it always does. But now, it need no longer command your life. Instead, it becomes a teacher, guiding you to step beyond illusions, to awaken your inner strength, and to walk the path of true liberation. Right mindfulness, anchoring in the present. In the journey beyond fear, mindfulness serves as the steady anchor in the shifting seas of the mind. The Buddha called it samasati, right mindfulness, a continuous, non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. It is the art of fully inhabiting now without drifting into the past regrets or the future's anxieties. Fear thrives when our attention is stolen by imagined threats or lingering wounds. It multiplies when we lose touch with the simple reality of our breath, the solidity beneath our feet, or the sounds that surround us. Mindfulness is the gentle but powerful antidote, a conscious turning back to what is rather than what might be. Imagine your mind as a river. When fear floods it with rushing currents, mindfulness is the quiet bank that holds the waters steady. Through mindful awareness, you become the observer of your thoughts and sensations, not their captive. You notice fear rising like a wave, but don't have to be swept away. This witnessing perspective is transformative. It creates a sacred space between you and fear where choice arises. You can respond with compassion, courage, or calm instead of reacting with panic or avoidance. Moreover, mindfulness invites kindness towards the very experience of fear itself. Instead of rejecting or suppressing it, you welcome it as a visitor, recognizing that it too is impermanent. This compassionate witnessing softens fear's grip and fosters resilience. Modern science confirms what ancient wisdom has long taught. Mindfulness rewires the brain, strengthens emotional regulation, and cultivates equanimity, the capacity to remain balanced amidst life's storms. So, start small. Each time fear beckons, bring your attention to your breath. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Notice the earth supporting you. Name the fear silently. This is fear. Observe it without judgment. Over time, this practice deepens your presence and your power. You become like a mountain standing firm against the wind, unshaken by the gust of anxious thoughts. Right mindfulness isn't merely a tool, it is a doorway to freedom. Developing wisdom, seeing through the veil of fear. Wisdom, or panna in Pali, is the radiant light that dissolves the shadows of ignorance and fear. The Buddha described wisdom as the supreme illumination that reveals the true nature of reality, impermanence, non-self, and interconnectedness. Fear arises from misunderstanding. It is born from clinging to illusions, the false narratives our minds weave about danger, loss, and identity. Wisdom teaches us to question these stories deeply. Is this fear grounded in reality, or is it a phantom cast by my own thoughts? Consider how a child fears the dark, imagining monsters lurking unseen. Yet, when the light is switched on, the shadows vanish, revealing familiar and harmless surroundings. Similarly, wisdom is the light that reveals fear as a passing cloud, not an immutable truth. This clarity allows us to see fear as what it truly is, a transient mental event, conditioned by past experiences and current perceptions, but not an absolute reality. It invites us to meet fear with curiosity rather than resistance, transforming it from a tyrant into a teacher. Wisdom also embraces impermanence. It understands that nothing, neither pain nor pleasure, loss nor gain, lasts forever. This perspective cultivates courage as we recognize that fear, like all things, will eventually pass. Moreover, wisdom teaches us the law of cause and effect, or karma. Our present fears often stem from seeds planted by past actions, thoughts, and intentions. By cultivating wholesome causes, kindness, patience, courage, we shape a future where fear holds less sway. In daily life, developing wisdom means pausing to reflect on the nature of your fears. Ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? Is this fear based on fact or assumption? How can I respond with clarity and compassion? This deep inquiry nurtures insight and frees you from the habitual cycles of anxiety and avoidance. Over time, wisdom blossoms into profound peace, allowing you to walk through life with grounded confidence and open-hearted presence. Embracing mindfulness, being present with fear. Mindfulness, sati, is the gentle art of being fully present, observing each moment with openness and acceptance. It is a bridge that connects us from the turmoil of the mind to the stillness of awareness. Fear often pulls us into a restless chase, either fixating on past regrets or projecting into future anxieties. Mindfulness invites us to step out of this spiral and root ourselves firmly in the now. When fear arises, rather than running away or suppressing it, mindfulness teaches us to observe it with kindness. Notice how it manifests in your body, the quickening heartbeat, the tightening chest, the shallow breath. See these sensations as messengers, not enemies. By simply witnessing fear without judgment, you begin to loosen its grip. The fearful thoughts become like clouds drifting across a vast sky, temporary and ever-changing, never permanent. This practice cultivates a spaciousness within you, a refuge where fear cannot overwhelm. It also builds resilience, enabling you to respond skillfully instead of reacting impulsively. Through mindfulness, fear transforms from a paralyzing force into a teacher guiding you to deeper self-awareness. You learn that you are not your fear. You are the awareness in which fear arises and dissolves. Consistent mindfulness practice rewires the mind. Neuroscience reveals that it strengthens neural pathways associated with emotional regulation and calmness. Over time, this leads to lasting shifts in how fear affects you. Imagine meeting fear not with resistance, but with a quiet curiosity, gently asking, "What are you trying to show me?" This approach opens doors to healing old wounds and cultivating courage. In essence, mindfulness dissolves the illusion of fear by bringing it into the light of conscious presence, where it can no longer control your life. Cultivating wisdom, seeing fear with clear eyes. Wisdom, panna, is the radiant light that dispels the shadows of confusion and illusion. It is not mere knowledge, but a deep, transformative understanding of reality as it truly is. Fear thrives in ignorance, when we mistake our thoughts and feelings for absolute truth. It tells us stories of danger and defeat, yet these stories often mask the absence of clarity. The Buddha taught that true wisdom arises when we see beyond appearances, recognizing that fear is a mental construction, a veil cast by uncertainty and misunderstanding. Developing wisdom means learning to question the stories fear tells. Is this fear grounded in reality? Am I safe in this moment? Is my mind creating threats where none exist? This reflective inquiry begins to unravel fear's power. Like turning on a light in a dark room, wisdom reveals the emptiness of the monsters we once feared. Wisdom also teaches the impermanence of all things, emotions, situations, even life itself. When we grasp this truth, fear loses its foundation. We understand that no state, no matter how frightening, is permanent or defining. Moreover, wisdom encourages compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. It reminds us that fear is a universal experience, part of the shared human journey. This understanding softens self-judgment and opens the heart. By nurturing wisdom, we build an inner sanctuary of clarity and strength, a space where fear can no longer dictate our choices. In practical terms, cultivating wisdom involves mindfulness, study, reflection, and honest self-examination. It is a lifelong journey of awakening, turning fear into insight and growth, embracing impermanence, finding freedom in change. At the heart of Buddhist teaching lies the profound insight of anicca, impermanence. Everything that exists is in a state of constant flux. Nothing stays the same, nothing lasts forever. This simple yet revolutionary truth offers a powerful antidote to fear. Fear often arises from our clinging to people, to moments, to identities, to comfort, and even to life itself. We fear losing what we cherish, and we fear the unknown that change inevitably brings. But when we deeply embrace impermanence, we awaken to the liberation it offers. Just as the seasons shift, rivers flow, and day turns to night, so do our emotions, situations, and life circumstances continually evolve. Nothing is fixed, and nothing is permanent. This is the natural order. By seeing fear through the lens of impermanence, we recognize it as a passing cloud, not a permanent storm. When fear surfaces, it is but a wave on the ocean of experience, rising, cresting, and ultimately subsiding. We stop resisting, stop holding on so tightly, and instead, allow life's currents to carry us forward. Acceptance of impermanence cultivates resilience, the strength to face uncertainty with grace, knowing that even the darkest moments will shift and transform. It teaches us to treasure the present moment, for it is all we truly have. When you accept impermanence, fear loses its grip because you no longer expect life to stay the same, and thus, no longer suffer from the illusion of control. This insight invites us to live fully, not despite change, but because of it. In daily life, practice noticing impermanence in small ways, the fading of a flower, the passing of a thought, the shifting of the breeze. Let these observations remind you that clinging breeds suffering, and letting go creates freedom. In this way, impermanence is not to be feared, but welcomed as a gateway to profound peace and lib. Understanding suffering, dukkha, the pathway beyond fear. In Buddhism, dukkha, often translated as suffering or unsatisfactoriness, is not a pessimistic doctrine but a clear-eyed acknowledgement of the human condition. It reminds us that pain, loss, fear, and uncertainty are universal experiences shared by all beings. Fear, as a form of suffering, signals the presence of attachment, aversion, or ignorance within us. Rather than deny or escape this reality, the Buddha invites us to face suffering with courage and wisdom. By recognizing fear as a natural part of the journey, not a flaw or failure, we begin to soften our resistance and open to healing. This recognition dissolves isolation. It reminds us that fear connects us to the greater web of life, where all beings face struggle and change. From this shared experience emerges compassion for ourselves and for others. Suffering, then, becomes a doorway, not a trap. It teaches us valuable lessons about impermanence, attachment, and the nature of the mind. It calls us to cultivate patience, resilience, and kindness. When fear arises, instead of pushing it away or fighting it, we can learn to sit with it, acknowledge it, and understand its message. This mindful engagement transforms fear from an enemy into a teacher. It leads us toward greater self-awareness and inner freedom. Moreover, dukkha encourages us to look beyond immediate discomfort and see the potential for growth. It tells us that every challenge contains the seed of awakening. In this way, fear and suffering are not obstacles to happiness but essential steps on the path to liberation. By embracing dukkha, we cultivate the strength to walk through fear, not around it. The law of cause and effect, karma, cultivating empowerment beyond fear. In the Buddhist worldview, nothing arises without cause and conditions. This is the law of karma. Our thoughts, words, and actions sow seeds that grow into future experiences. Fear often convinces us that life is random, unpredictable, or unjust, that bad things happen without reason. But understanding karma offers a profound shift. We are not helpless victims of fate. Instead, we are active creators of our reality. When fear grips us, it clouds this power. It makes us believe that outcomes are beyond our control, that we are at the mercy of external forces. But when we see that every choice we make, no matter how small, contributes to the unfolding of our lives, we reclaim agency. We begin to recognize that planting seeds of courage, compassion, and wisdom will yield fruits of peace and strength. This knowledge does not promise instant results. Like a seed, karma takes time to bear fruit. Yet, the law is consistent and impartial. By acting mindfully, even in moments of fear, we contribute to a future shaped by intention rather than reaction. This perspective transforms fear from a paralyzing force into a call for conscious action. It empowers us to respond with clarity and kindness, rather than avoidance or despair. Imagine the confidence that arises when you trust in your ability to influence your life through right action. Even when uncertainty looms, you know your choices matter. Karma teaches patience and persistence. It reminds us that each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory over fear. With this wisdom, fear loses its grip. You are not powerless. You are the gardener of your destiny. And with each thoughtful choice, you nurture the courage to walk your path with grace. Patience is one of the most profound strengths we can cultivate on the path to freedom from fear. In Buddhist thought, patience, or khanti, is not mere endurance or passive waiting. It is an active, powerful state of calm resilience. Fear often surfaces when we rush, when life doesn't move according to our plans, or when uncertainty looms too large. But impatience only feeds the fire of anxiety, making our minds restless and our hearts heavy. True patience teaches us to slow down, to breathe deeply, and to allow space for fear to arise and to gently dissolve. Imagine standing by a river, watching the water flow. The river never forces its course, it simply moves, naturally and gracefully. When we embody patience, we align ourselves with this flowing energy, learning to trust life's timing rather than resist it. This trust is a radical act of surrender, a deep knowing that not everything must be solved immediately, that some answers unfold only with time. Through patience, fear loses its urgency and intensity. We begin to see discomfort not as an enemy, but as a passing wave, an experience we can ride instead of fight. In our impatience, we often push ourselves hardest, expecting instant progress, perfection, or certainty. But growth is never linear. Like the seasons, it cycles and changes. Patient self-compassion is key. It reminds us that it's okay to falter, to pause, to feel vulnerable. Every small step forward, every moment of calm in the storm, is a victory. When fear arises, meet it with patient curiosity. Notice the sensations in your body, the racing thoughts, the tightness in your chest. Sit with them without judgment or urgency. Over time, this presence weakens fear's hold and strengthens your inner peace. Patience is not passive. It is the quiet power to hold space for yourself and your journey, to trust that life's unfolding is exactly as it should be, even when you cannot see the path ahead clearly. It is the courage to keep moving, step by step, anchored in calm and grace. Letting go of attachment, tanha. Attachment, or tanha in Buddhist teachings, is often the root from which fear grows. It is that deep craving, the insatiable thirst for things, people, outcomes, or identities to be a certain way. We cling tightly, believing that our happiness, security, and sense of self depend on these attachments. And when life threatens to change or take them away, fear springs to life, gripping us with anxiety and desperation. But what if the very act of holding on is what causes our suffering? The Buddha taught that freedom arises not from acquiring more, but from releasing our grasp, learning to engage fully with life without being chained to expectations or outcomes. Letting go doesn't mean becoming cold, indifferent, or disconnected. It means embracing life with open hands and a flexible heart, loving deeply, striving wholeheartedly, yet without the desperate need for control. This non-attachment frees us to experience joy more fully because we are no longer caught in the trap of if only. Imagine walking through a garden. You admire the flowers, but you don't try to uproot them or keep them forever. You allow them to bloom and fade naturally, appreciating their beauty in every phase. This is the spirit of non-attachment. When we practice releasing, fear's power diminishes. We no longer dread loss, rejection, or change because we understand that these are inevitable parts of life's flow. We find peace not in permanence, but in presence. To cultivate non-attachment, begin by noticing where in your life you cling most tightly. It might be to a relationship, a job, a belief, or even an image of yourself. Gently ask, is this attachment nourishing my peace or stealing it? Practice trusting that your well-being comes from within, not from external circumstances. With each step toward letting go, you reclaim your freedom. You become resilient, flexible, and deeply alive. Fear no longer controls you, because your happiness isn't bound to what can be lost. Embracing compassion, karuna. Compassion, or karuna, is the heart's response to suffering. Our deep, gentle recognition that all beings, including ourselves, share the experience of pain, fear, and longing. In the face of fear, compassion becomes a powerful antidote, softening the sharp edges of anxiety and self-judgment. Often, when fear arises, we turn harshly inward, criticizing ourselves for feeling weak or vulnerable. But the Buddha teaches a different way, to meet our own fears with kindness and understanding, just as we would comfort a frightened child. Imagine the warmth of a hand on your shoulder, a soothing voice that says, "It's okay, you're not alone." Compassion doesn't deny fear's presence, it embraces it, holding it tenderly without resistance. This acceptance creates space for healing and courage to grow. Moreover, compassion extends beyond ourselves to others. When we recognize that fear is universal, everyone struggles, everyone stumbles, we develop empathy that connects rather than divides. This shared humanity dissolves isolation and fosters genuine connection. Practicing compassion doesn't make fear disappear overnight, but it transforms our relationship with it. Fear no longer dominates us. Instead, love and understanding become the guiding forces in our lives. To cultivate karuna, start by speaking kindly to yourself when fear arises. Replace harsh self-talk with gentle encouragement. Then, extend this same kindness outward. Offer forgiveness, patience, and support to others, knowing that we all walk paths marked by uncertainty. Through compassion, fear loses its grip, replaced by a deep wellspring of resilience and peace. Surrender to the flow. Trust in the Dharma. Surrender. It's a word often misunderstood as giving up or losing control. But in Buddhist wisdom, surrender is a profound act of trust. Trust in the Dharma, the natural law and order of existence. Imagine standing in a river's current. Fighting the flow only exhausts you. But when you relax and move with the water, you find ease and grace, even as the current carries you forward. Fear often arises from resistance, resisting change, resisting uncertainty, resisting the parts of life we cannot control. We cling tightly to plans, expectations, and the illusion of permanence. Yet, life is in constant motion, and clinging only breeds suffering. The Dharma teaches us to embrace this flow, to understand that everything unfolds according to causes and conditions beyond our full grasp, and that surrendering to this truth frees us from needless struggle. Surrender is not passivity. It is active acceptance, a choice to engage with life fully, even when the path is unclear, trusting that each moment is part of a larger, wiser plan. When fear arises, surrender invites us to breathe deeply and say, I do not have all the answers, but I will take the next step with faith. It invites us to loosen our grip, soften our resistance, and open to possibility. In this letting go, fear begins to dissolve, not because it disappears, but because it no longer holds the reins. The river flows, and so do we, alive, present, and unafraid. Practice non-self, embracing anatta. One of Buddhism's most profound and transformative teachings is the concept of anatta, or non-self. At first, this idea can feel unsettling. How can there be no permanent self when we experience life through our thoughts, feelings, and identity? But consider this. This self we cling to is not a fixed, unchanging entity. It's a fluid story, shaped by experiences, labels, and perceptions. Like clouds drifting across the sky, our sense of self is ever-changing, never truly solid. Fear often thrives in the illusion of a fixed self. When we tie our identity to certain roles, achievements, or fears, we think, I am this, or I must protect that part of me. And when those things are threatened, fear flares up. Embracing non-self invites us to loosen our grasp on these identities and stories. It frees us from the tyranny of, I must be perfect, I must be strong, or I am defined by my fears. Instead, we learn to observe our thoughts and feelings as passing phenomena, not as the essence of who we are. We become the silent witness behind the waves of emotion and thought, a steady presence untouched by fear. In this spacious awareness, fear loses its power. We realize we are not our fears. We are the awareness in which fears arise and fade. Practicing anatta deepens our freedom. It helps us live with openness and flexibility, embracing change without losing our center. Meditate on death, the practice of Maranasati. The final teaching invites us to meditate on death, Maranasati, a practice that might seem daunting, but is actually a profound path to liberation. In Buddhist philosophy, reflecting on our mortality isn't meant to scare us, but to awaken us. It strips away illusions and helps us see what truly matters. When we remember that life is finite, every moment gains clarity and urgency. We stop squandering time on trivial fears and distractions. Instead, we begin to live fully and authentically. Buddha called this meditation the supreme mindfulness. It's a reminder that nothing in life is guaranteed, and that embracing this truth can free us from attachment and fear. Imagine yourself going about your day with the deep awareness that this breath could be your last, not with panic, but with calm acceptance. How would your choices change? How would you treat others? How would you treat yourself? This awareness cultivates gratitude, compassion, and presence. It encourages us to forgive faster, love more deeply, and let go of grudges that weigh down the heart. Maranasati teaches us that death is not the enemy. It's the great teacher guiding us to live well. By sitting quietly and contemplating impermanence, we prepare ourselves to face fear with grace and courage, transforming it into a gateway for awakening. Now that we have journeyed through these 12 profound Buddhist teachings, you can see that fear is not an enemy lurking to trap you. Instead, it is a shadow cast by the mind, an illusion that can be dissolved by awareness, wisdom, and compassion. You hold within you the power to transform fear into freedom. Each lesson is a stepping stone guiding you back to your true nature, a nature that is brave, resilient, and deeply at peace. Remember, this path is not about perfection or erasing fear altogether. It is about learning to walk alongside fear with mindfulness and kindness, gradually reclaiming your inner strength. If these teachings have resonated with you, I invite you to take a moment now to breathe deeply, center yourself, and commit to embracing courage over fear every day. Share this video with someone who might benefit from a reminder that they are stronger than their fears. Subscribe to this channel for more timeless wisdom to help you live a life rooted in courage, peace, and true freedom. Thank you for being here, and may your journey forward be filled with light and unwavering strength.